Welcome everybody to Panfish Nation. Along with Mark, I'm Wild Mark. We got Eric Massey joining us tonight. We're going to have a fun show. What would you say we introduce everybody in chat and get this show on the road?
Absolutely. I saw that Jody was the first one in here. We'll see if she comes back. So far, I see me in there. I see Cindy. I see Creole from Creole Catfishing. I see Crappie Dave Fish on. He's a channel member. Joe Buck 66 is a channel member too. We got that's the they're the early risers. They're the ones that are here right away. We appreciate each and every one of you. I'm sure we'll get some more people in here right now. Lyle, you know the CMAs are on tonight, right?
I don't even know what a CMA is.
I don't either. All I know is Betty texted me, and she's like, the CMAs are getting ready to start. I'm like, what's a CMA? She goes, Country Music Awards. I replied to her, I go, you mean banjos have awards? Oh, she did not like that.
I know what they are. I used to watch them all the time, but
I didn't even know they still did that.
Hey, I'd rather talk about fishing anytime. There's our buddy Creole and Joe Buck 66. But yeah, I'd rather talk fishing anytime, and that's what we're going to do. Heck, we got Eric on here. We're going to talk about jigs and crappie and bluegill, and he's been catching a bunch of walleye. I know that's interesting to you, Mark, for sure.
It absolutely is. What's going on, Brian B? Brian B just came in here. Creole says no such thing as country music anymore. I kind of agree.
Well, it's not country, and that's why I don't watch that stuff.
I agree with that too.
You know what?
There's a few artists out there that resemble it, but not anything they play on the radio.
No, the first thing that attracted me to Eric Massey jig making was catching him in his YouTube videos, and he was playing Waylon Jennings.
Mm-hmm.
Since I played backup for Waylon when I was a real youngster back in the old days, I played it in Opry, and he come up there and performed a few times. I got to play backup for him. He is my hero, man. I mean, one of the original Outlaws, and he didn't just get that name from somebody tagging it on him. He lived that lifestyle.
Oh no, he was an outlaw.
He was. There's our buddy, Mr. Fields.
What's going on, Josh? What's up, kid?
Glad to see them guys in here. But yeah, we're going to have some fun tonight. I don't know which topic we need to start on. Eric, I know you've been catching a bunch of fish and a bunch of walleyes. Would you like to tell us about that to start?
The walleye thing, I did not think was going to happen. We had kind of burned ourselves out so bad on the crappie, and all of our crappie spit spots were so thick with other people fishing that I wanted something else. Me and Dad, when I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, we used to fish the Ohio River a lot. And we'd fish for sauger, walleye, and all that on that river. But I wanted to figure out how to catch them on the lake. So we studied up on it. We read. I watched articles. We took the boat out. We went 4 solid trips and never even got a bite. And then all of a sudden it happened. Everything, and people were saying how to throw the crankbaits, had speeds to pull them at, where to pull them at. We got on Stockton Lake and pulled the map up and looked at everything we could find and narrowed out spots. And we went waiting for this weather here, this changing weather to go after them again, which it should be turning on now. That first cold spell, I thought that was going to hold, but I'm pretty sure the weather way it's changing out there right now is probably getting ready to set that new pattern. And that's what the weather I was waiting for was this right here.
Yeah.
So the walleye fishing, I'm pretty sure we're getting ready to pick back up on that.
That's good, because I know that Mark's really interested in that. I know you're a big proponent of it. Me, I don't care. I just want to catch fish right now.
But there was something elusive about a lake walleye. Y'all, I've caught them by accident before. Tried to do it again, couldn't get it to happen, and I didn't want it to be an accident. And then when I caught the first one, I was like, that really worked. Turned around and went back and did it again and worked again. And next thing I was like, man, I figured something out. And all we was doing was dragging crankbaits off a shallow flat before the sun come up.
Yep.
And it worked. I was pretty able to do it now, but the thermocline was kind of killing me. I couldn't figure out where they were going once the sun come up. When the sun come up, it was almost impossible to chase them down with the thermocline.
Well, the thermocline's gone now, right?
It should be.
It's getting there here.
Was at like 53, 54, and it had kind of a weirdish looking film on it.
Now, which lake are you talking about, Eric?
Maybe Palm de Terre.
Okay, I was on Lake Ozark yesterday, and I didn't see any signs of that. But it's different water, and I understand it. But I see thermocline under it, and we was dragging baits for catfish, and we didn't have no problem catching them either.
Well, the thermoclines they'll dissipate when the lake turns, correct?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? When the weeds die off and that gets real smelly, the water smells like rotten weeds and it gets real dirty for a couple of days.
Yeah.
That's how we know when the lakes are turned over.
It's got a fertile smell to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've heard film on top of the water sometimes.
Yeah.
Whether that's what it was or something else, I don't know. But I caught a glimpse of it once in the sunlight, and I thought, well, maybe it just turned over. A couple of those white bass we caught the bellies were caked in mud. And I've never seen white bass do that. I mean, they had mud deep enough, you scrape it off their bellies.
Yep.
I don't know why they were in mud that deep like that.
The white bass and the striper I caught in the last couple of weeks, the exact same way, Eric. And I'm marking them on sonar. They're belly in the mud. They're all the way down.
Yeah, I've never seen them do that unless now they have got access back down to that deep water without the thermocline, and I don't know what's going on in the mud. I've never seen that.
We didn't notice any of the fish we caught yesterday being in the mud, but it was all deep. So they may or may not have it.
We wasn't fishing
we didn't
really
notice
deep.
It don't mean they hadn't been.
Yeah, I mean it was pretty noticeable when he pulled one out of the water, and we caught another one right after that, and I pulled it up, and I was like, "Well, that's odd. I've never seen that before."
Yeah.
Well, what water temperatures are you guys seeing by you?
I had 63.2 yesterday on Lake Ozark.
I had 57, 58, but I was in a river tributary though.
I had 46 degrees on one of the Channel Lakes last week.
Yeah, but what's your air temperature, Mark?
Well, it's been getting colder at night, so that's where you lose all your water temp. During the day, we've had some warm days, but at night when it's that when there's no solar heat going on, look at that Catfish Weekly T-shirt.
Heck yeah, get them while they're hot.
Yeah, but that's the water temps we're getting. We'll find out again tomorrow. I'm heading out again tomorrow to see where they're at. I'm hoping they're out on the basins, the crappie at least. I'm tired of these white bass and the striped bass because I don't eat them. I'm not a big fan of how they taste. I know a lot of people.
I'm not a big fan of the white bass either, and I was kind of hoping they wouldn't be so bloody in the fillets, but they still kind of a little bit bloody inside of them.
I went out with this young man, Eli, and he got on a real nice one. He got on like a 16-inch white bass when we were out there, which was kind of surprised. The stripes have all been, kind of small to medium, anywhere between 10 to 14 inches, nothing really big, but it's still good to see them out there. I don't catch them too much. This was on the river, by the way, not on the lake. So that's where we're catching them. I've seen a couple of nice crappies come out of some dock areas where there were some people fishing over there, but I didn't get close enough to the docks to get them. They were dead sticking them right off the side. There'd be like 4 guys sitting on the docks and they'd have their poles hanging right off the side of it. And they're just watching the rod tips, but they were doing pretty good. Crappie Day Fish On's been a member for 10 months. Thank you, Crappie Day. We appreciate you. So yeah, that's what's been going on out here. We'll see what happens out there tomorrow too. But is your crappie bite still happening, Eric?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I know it is. I'll go off Facebook sometimes. I'll use Facebook as one of my biggest fishing tools. If I'm going on Sunday, Saturday, how many pictures come off the lake? Where they tear them up? Or they catching them good? But then I also kind of pay attention to, I know for a fact this guy's got live scope. This guy's got live scope. Where they, so it kind of makes it, it's a little bit easier sometimes to find a big school of fish. But yeah, the crappie bite's still pretty decent. It really should be all the way up until mid-December, end of December.
But we're going to find out tomorrow. We're going to see if I can get out onto the basin. Out here, when it gets real cold, they go out into the basin and they start wandering in wolf packs and stuff. All the crappie I found in the last few weeks have all been hugging the bottom in brush piles and stuff, and I couldn't get them to come out. And they're all in like, shoot, I've been following anywhere from like 14 to 25 feet of water, to be honest with you. But they're not roaming the basins yet, so we'll see if that happens soon.
Welcome, Slick.
Let's
see you in chat tonight. Go ahead, Eric. Sorry.
Eric Pierce has joined us, same with Missy Kennedy. Welcome, guys.
Yeah, when those fish get out in the basins and they all start roaming in those wolf packs, that's my favorite time to fish.
Absolutely.
Man, you can clean up pretty quick on a school of crappie like that.
Are they still on the wood and the standing timber?
Yeah, they were hugging, right against the trees. 5 foot away from the trees, we wasn't catching nothing, but you can almost feel the jig bouncing off the trees and going down, and that's usually right pretty close to the bottom, somewhere in that 5 foot range like that.
I got a picture of Dee wearing a shirt just like mine. Makes me proud. There's Richard from Fishing Freedom has joined us. Glad to see him in here tonight. Member for 10 months. Yeah, this fall crappie fishing has been really good, and I don't see it changing for a while because the temperatures we're showing for the next 10 days still in the upper 60s.
Yeah, so the water's still going to stay fairly warm for quite a while.
Yeah.
And that just gives them long enough more time to fatten up before they do go back out to the channel.
That's exactly right. Welcome, Wayne. Glad to see you in here tonight. That's exactly right. And I'm on a mission right now to get me some Eaton-sized channel cat and blues, the small ones. I don't like when they're very big. I did catch a really nice one yesterday, but I'm trying to get some ahead for me to eat for a couple meals ahead, then we're going to hit them crappie because I could catch all the bluegill I want, but they're just so small. So we're going to go after
everywhere we go around here. They're small.
Yeah, there's got to be some good ones in here somewhere, but until I find them, right now the crappie are on fire, and I'm going to be on a mission after them too.
Yeah. I think that's what we're going to do, too. We're going to deer hunt this weekend, and then I think we're going on a freezer filling mission for fish.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be times this fall or winter that's going to be tough to get out, especially for Mark because his water's going to get hard. Ours may or may not. We never know.
Yeah.
But his definitely.
Mine does. That last cold spell we had, I saw a couple. Freeze. Yeah, that last cold spell we had here, I saw a couple of ponds starting to ice over. It really broke my heart. So
yeah, we haven't seen nothing like that, Eric. No, not Ryan, because I want to get my grease hot this weekend too. There's Jeremy Parker Pursuits.
So Danny Stone come in here too. Welcome, Danny. How you doing, bud?
Heck yeah, Small Water Charters. Joe Buck 66. Glad to have all you guys join us tonight. It's really awesome. But I don't. What do you got planned, Eric? Are you doing lots of? I know you had made a video the other day, and I wanted to talk to you about that a little bit about what you're not going to be doing. And I was a little taken with that, but I understand it completely with the price of shipping and all the stuff that's going on. Would you mind going into that a little bit?
With the there was two things I'm doing right now here for a while. The everything I was doing with the plastics, I totally got out of it. The time spent versus the money that I was making off of it and trying to compete with people that were doing 20, 30,000 jigs a day versus my maybe making 500.
Right.
Wasn't worth the time I was putting into it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those, it could have been, but I didn't have time to stock up on a inventory that you need to keep them moving. Honestly, in all actuality, the bottom of that market just totally fell out on plastic jigs and the hand-tied jigs, both the same way. There's so many people doing it now that it wasn't worth it. The jig is so low that the packaging I was using to put the jigs in was actually worth more than the jigs I was putting in those bags.
You see, that ain't
And
right.
a lot of people, and I think a lot of people are doing that, and I don't, if you can do it and make a profit off of it, hats off to you. I couldn't figure out or how to wrap up on how to do that. I couldn't get it all to come together to where I was actually, and I wasn't really trying to pay for myself, just trying to pay for the shipping, the extra materials to come in. What I was sending out the door wasn't enough to bring more material back in the door to get a 5-gallon bucket of plastisol was costing me $165, $170.
Right.
And it was only $93 for a 5-gallon bucket, but to have it shipped to your house, was unbelievable on the price of that. And if you're shooting a lot of plastic jigs, you'd be amazed of how fast you can go through a 5-gallon. I mean, you can fly through it. And then, but you got to make sure you've got another bucket coming, just in case, it's a 2 or 3 week shipping delay to get that to you. And I didn't have the time to go over there and sit there and do that anymore. By the time I got the mode set up, the plastisol heated up, the best I was going to spend was an hour being able to have enough time to do it. It come down to a time management thing. If you had a couple of days where you were doing nothing, no full-time job or anything like that, building up a big inventory, package it up, having it ready, and then just shipping them through the week would be different. But it was just, I don't want to spend the whole, I don't want to spend a whole weekend day, because my weekends are pretty precious, and I didn't want to spend it working, not knowing for sure, am I going to be able to sell this, or I'm going to be holding on to these jigs for the next 2 years. Even though you come up with something really, really good, it might not ever sell ever again.
That's right.
I mean, there's always that chance that it wouldn't. It's because it's a hot jig right now. Somebody else is going to sell it cheaper than what you were making it for, just to kind of push you out of the way. There it is. What do you do with it now? And I don't blame people. If you can get it cheaper over here, why not? But there's a lot right now. There's a lot of, let's push these guys out of the way and let's just take over the market and flood the market with it, which is what's happened to just about. Well, even
that's exactly right. And Eric, I'm not going to give them away. If I'm going to give them away, I'm going to give them away right here.
Yeah.
If you want to purchase some from me, I'm happy to sell them to you. But they're going to cost you $1.50, $2 a piece, depending on what they are.
Exactly.
Because that's what it takes to make them.
You got to make enough money back to be able to keep material coming in. And right now, there's a few guys that have gotten really cheap with their materials, where now you can do it. But you're at best right now, I see me breaking even, but still not being able to have enough to pay for the materials that I need these jigs with.
That's right. And like I say, if you can't come out, if you can't at least break even, if I'm going to give them away, I'm going to give them away on our show. I'm not going to give them away to 500 people stand in line wanting me to sell them to them for cost. There's no way you can come out on that. And I got you 100%, man.
Yeah, I was on a couple of these Facebook pages with these bait makers that sell baits and jigs and stuff on there, and I'm looking at the prices that they're asking for this stuff, and I'm like, there's no way they're doing this and making any money at it. Either that, or they got a bunch of slave labor over in China doing it for nothing.
Yeah, well, I'm seeing hand-tied jigs that people are not real far away from me are tying. I seen some the other day in a box. There was 54 of them in a box. He was including shipping, even $50. It was in a box. I know what it costs to ship that box. That's $10 to ship that box. He'd sold 53 hand-tied jigs, way under $1 a piece. And these were resin coated with eyes. Like, man, what are I don't get a bunch of material. You inherited a bunch of jig heads, the powder paint, and it's all free, and you don't have a job. I get it. I understand how you can make a profit off that. But if you're actually buying, quality feathers, quality materials, quality lead for your jig heads, quality paint, there's no way. And I can't keep up with that. And I'm not even going to try. I don't need to. I'm still working a full-time job. I don't have to sit down here and work 7 days a week.
That's
just
right.
to break even.
Yep. And that's
even though I charge shipping. Yeah, and even though I'm going to charge shipping, I still got to make time to get to the post office or sit in here and print off a label, put it in a mailbox, and hope that the mailman gets it to the right address, the guy that's picking it up in the truck.
God, they're horrible.
It's not worth it.
It's not,
It's really not.
Sit here and people want them, and I'll sell them anywhere from 3 or 4 to 100 at a time, and you ship them out, and you think, well, that wasn't so bad. And then the next guy orders 25, and you tell him what it's going to cost. And, well, I can't do that. Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go somewhere else.
Yeah. Or worse than that is, well, so-and-so he said he'd sell me the same ones for this price.
Go there.
You should have bought them from him. Don't come to me. If
that's
that
what
was okay with you, get them from him.
And that's what I tell
people.
If he can
do it.
People say, why don't you build a rod like this? I said, okay, I can do that, no problem, but I'm not going to use that blank because they're no good. That's why I don't have them in my garage. Well, what will that cost me? And I tell them, well, such and such, then order it from him because I'm not going to do it for that price.
Exactly.
And that's why I always said, I'm going to do them at my speed. When I get done with them, you'll be happier. You don't own it. And I've got one now that I've had apart 3 times because it just doesn't suit me. And for this particular guy, I want it to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wrapped it and unwrapped it and wrapped it and unwrapped it twice. I'm on my 3rd time because I want it to be like it's supposed to be. Now, with that being said, and he gets it and he don't like it, I'm going to be heartbroken, but I think he will. The thing is, if I'm not happy with it, the guy's not going to be happy with it. If it's ugly, it's ugly. I don't give a shit what anybody says.
Yeah.
But it's the same way with the jig, Eric. If you build them things and you build them correctly and they don't come apart and they catch 50 fish off of them, what's the problem with paying $1.50 for $2 for one?
Yeah. You take some of these guys bass fishing will pay $20 for one crankbait.
Yeah.
Well, they're paying $1,000 for a freaking glide bait, or these musky guys. They're paying a fortune.
Yeah. Or a hand tied any jig can be done the exact same way. If you want to change colors, take it off, put a different one on. Put it back in the box. It's going to last you. If you keep it dry and you keep them, I did a little video on how to take care of them when you put them in the box. You do it like that, that jig's going to last a while.
Yeah, that's right. And Kim Burnett is a hell of a jig tire. And his last really well. He sells a ton of them. I know that he does. And I don't have any problem if I was buying jigs and I wanted some of them house flies or something like it. If he wanted $3 a piece for them, I'd be okay with that because that's something I want. I'll pay that price because it's something I want.
You can watch him tie on Facebook or TikTok when he's actually tying and he's live. Yeah. All of his, he's reading the comments, but all of his concentration is going into each and every single one he ties. Right. I mean, you could see the paying attention to the comments. He is to a point, but he's putting work in the time. Hey, Chubby, is he on TikTok now all the time? Yeah, I've seen him on TikTok every once in a while. Okay, well, I haven't seen him on YouTube for a while, or Facebook. I mean, I used to catch him on Facebook on Wednesday night.
He's on like right after we're off on Facebook. I see him every week. So
okay, because I need to. Yeah,
there's usually something I see on him on Facebook.
No, like you, I have great respect for both of you. You both do great work, and Kim's won a lot of awards for the stuff he does. So if somebody
he's been doing it a long time,
longer than I have, but I've been doing it
longer than I have.
Some time, and so that's really cool. But what about fishing now? Are you're working through the days, correct? Yeah, I went from working night shift for 30 years, flopped right over into first shift, and this whole summer, I had a back surgery. I changed shifts. Had COVID again not too long ago, which that round really put me down pretty hard. And now I'm trying to get everything lined back up going into fall. But you have your weekends off, right?
Yeah, I usually, there's still a chance of overtime every once in a while. But yeah, weekends are normally off for the most part.
Is the overtime mandatory? Do you have an option on that?
Well, I'm the supervisor. I'm the ones that's usually got to say
you
we're
gotta
going
be
to work
there,
in
yeah.
it.
'Cause I know some people work and they have the option, and other people it's mandatory. And I'm
if
not
I
sure
had the
how all
option, I
that
would
works.
never, ever, ever work overtime if I had the option. Wouldn't
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, I got you. Well,
Hey, folks, can I break in here for 1 second?
you can.
I want to wish my beautiful wife, Sheila, a happy birthday today.
Happy birthday, Sheila. That's awesome.
Happy birthday, Sheila.
She heard that, guys. She said thank you. She went
Is she 29, 30, 40?
27.
27.
27.
I knew she was a lot younger than you and a whole lot better looking.
You ain't kidding there. Thank you for letting me say that. She's very happy. She left
You're
here.
absolutely welcome, and we're glad. Sheila's a great person. She lets you do a lot of things that a lot of our wives let us do that they really could throw a fit and we wouldn't do them, you know. But I'm lucky to have a lady like that. I know Eric is, and I know you are, Mark, and that's wonderful.
Yep.
And it was really great to see Sheila fishing with you a couple of times this year. I was really happy about that. I know that was a concern of yours.
She's already trying to get a game plan together for next year, so you ain't seen the end of her yet.
I'm excited about it for all of us. I think she'll be a great addition to what we do.
I hope so. But she's going to make my life difficult because she's driving me crazy about it already. So
that's awesome.
Anyway, so you've been working a lot of overtime, Eric. You were saying, or I mean, on the weekends.
Yeah, not so much right now, and I don't really think we will for quite a while. If deer season's coming up, opening day, Missouri deer season's coming up this weekend, so he seemed a little more excited about it this year than he ever has. Last year we didn't go; he really didn't seem like he wanted to. This year he kind of put a little more interest in it, so Gun will be out this weekend instead of the boat. I got all the way back. It hurt my feelings. He's like, "Yeah, I'd rather go catch more white bass." We've been back on the river again. I thought about, well, we can load everything up in the boat and we can hunt down on the river. And if we don't do any good, we can be fishing, within a couple minutes. But we're going to concentrate on getting a deer in the freezer this weekend. And so won't be any fishing unless something happens and we end up on the lake. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story. I have an ex-brother-in-law that is a friend of mine. We grew up together. And he married my sister, and they split up, and we still communicate. In fact, I was his best man at his last wedding. He called me today. I said, "What's going on?" He said, "You have corrupted me." I said, "I hear that a lot." He said, "I bet you do." He said, I bought that Thompson Contender pistol like yours." He said, "I'm going to deer hunt with it this year." I said, "The last time I went to Colorado elk and mule deer hunting, that's the only gun I took. And the last several deer that I killed, that's the only gun I took." And I said, it gets to the point where you kill so many of them, hunting with a rifle is not as big a challenge as it once was, but hunting with a handgun, of course, this one can shoot 200 yards and put a 5-shot count and 8 in a pipe, paper plate. So they're like shooting a rifle. But he said, "I just wanted you to know," he said, "my wife said that you had corrupted me." And I said, "Hell, if that's the case, it happened years ago before you met her." He said, "Yeah, that's what I told her." So funny story, Fishing with Squirrel, welcome. Frank from Twisted Fishing TV has joined us. Lance Bakugai, Wayne Hoska. Welcome, guys. We're glad to have you all in here.
So, Eric, how'd you get into tying jigs? I don't think I've ever asked you that.
I'd seen. All right, you remember back in the day when they used to use jigs that now Crappie Magnet selling. I don't know if Crappie Magnet was the one that originally made those little Popeye jigs, just a little painted jig head with an eye on it and just a couple feathers tied to it. Years ago, I used to fish with those and loved fishing with them. And I found one in a tackle box and decided that I wanted to figure out how to tie. I sat here and dissected it. was like, well, just some thread and some feathers. So I started watching around on YouTube, found some videos, and bought a kit off Amazon. And I've still yet not tied myself a bunch of those little Popeye jigs. But that's what got me into it. I wanted those in the color I wanted them in, not the color Bass Pro had them.
That's right.
Bass Pro had them in like this really dull green head with a black eye and like really ugly looking feathers. I wanted one that was chartreuse, white feathers, and that's where it all started. Was right there, that little damn Popeye jig. And I mean, it turned into a snowball effect mess like you wouldn't believe.
And they're easy to find.
I bet the neighbor next door probably trying to figure out where in the hell the pink chickens are coming from, because there's feathers over there every once in a while. I know he does. I know he's like, where in the world are these feathers coming? He has to.
But they're an easy tie, they're a fast tie, and they're effective. They catch a lot of fish.
And they're effective. Bluegill, crappie, and you get them like really super small, and there was just something about that. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know if Crappie Magnet was the original one, or if Crappie Magnet bought the rights to that jig, or if I don't even know if you could buy the rights to making a jig, but they're making it now, and that's actually what I started tying for, was just to make those. I
remember when of course I started tying back in the mid 1980s, flies, because we was trout fishing a lot in Bennett Springs in those days. People would come down and I'd tie jigs and flies and stuff. And they said, "Where'd you get that?" I said, "Well, I tied them." "Well, all I tie is flies." "Well, buy some jig heads." I mean, it's not rocket science here. If you want some of them, you're tying flies, just buy some jig heads. And
just do the same thing on a jig head.
That's right. And the Popeyes are easy to tie. And then what happens is, you get involved and you want to make something that nobody else is making. And I spend hours doing it. I'm sure you do too.
I do too.
But hours trying to come up with something that nobody's ever come up with. And once in a while, you'll come up with something like that, and then it don't catch fish, or it's really effective. Either way. I mean, it doesn't matter. But what I enjoy is just doing it. It's kind of like sitting in a boat fishing. It's relaxing, takes your mind off a lot of other stuff that don't amount to nothing, but it's bothering you. And you can sit and tie jigs and stuff and take your mind off that, just like you can sit in a boat and catch fish, and you forget about all the world's problems.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And you can sit down, sit down and tie jigs, and I don't know what so relaxing. I literally could waste I could start when the sun came up, and the next thing I know, the sun was going down. I could get totally wrapped up, involved in it, the music going, and just tie away. It was just me. I was amazed at how relaxed I got when I was doing it.
I agree.
Yeah, I've been spending lots of hours doing that lately in the garage, some jig work and stuff, and put on some tunes and that. But I keep trying to tell myself, don't reinvent the wheel. It ain't time yet. So I'm just trying to perfect what I'm doing. I think
you'll try eventually.
Oh, eventually.
It's coming. If you spend as much time doing it as Eric and I do, and some of these other guys, it becomes a challenge to come up with something nobody's done.
There was things I said I'm not doing this because I'm not going to add the extra step to it. Painting heads was one of them. I'm not going to paint my own heads. I'll buy them, paint it. Next thing I know, I got 200 different colors of powder paint, heat guns, propane torches, put the eyes on them. Now I got all kinds of UV resin, super glues, epoxies, a drawer with probably 20 million eyes in it, that are, it's a snowball effect. It just keeps building and building and building. And then I'll hit that spot every once in a while where, like, I swear I'm going to throw up if I look at another jig and I got to walk away from it for a week. And then I'll think of something. I'm going fishing the next weekend, and I think, man, I needed that color. And I'll come back down here and it starts all over again.
Yep. I understand completely.
Crazy.
Yeah, I'm going to try not to reinvent the wheel just yet. So we're going to give it some time.
Yeah.
Good luck.
That's right.
Spending enough money already, just trying to not reinvent the wheel. So I could
quit adding money up. Don't even keep.
Oh yeah, if you start thinking about how much you're going to just forget it.
You
Yep.
notice we're talking
Yeah.
about this now that Sheila ain't down here, right?
You keep track of
Oh,
money
boy.
paid of it.
So what jigs are you tying that are most effective for you, Eric?
Silvers. This past weekend, silvers or whites and blues have been really, really good. And I went to like a 16th ounce silver head, silver body with a gray and one strip of red in the tail. And I want to say in my mind, the crappie had been, or the fish had been feeding on shad that was a little bit bigger, and those shad are almost getting to eat them. And boom, there's an easy target, and they're going to go after it. That's what I'm thinking made that jig effective this weekend. Zach was using a white one and having good luck on that white one too. And I think it was the white and silver. Seeing something a little bit smaller than what they've been used to for the last couple of weeks was making a difference.
There for a while, they had to be hot on those small jigs because the last time I was on Palm Chair, that thing was full of men, shad minnows this size. It was just millions of them in there.
A couple of weeks ago, well, probably almost a month ago, they were still about almost 2 inches long.
Right.
But by the time you figured up width, that's still a pretty big, shad for crappie to eat.
Yeah.
And we started using. They were hitting them just as good as they was, a smaller profile one. But they were taking those big shad. But I think now they're getting to the spot where they're almost getting too big to make a comfortable meal.
How big of a jig in length, when you're tying one, do you think is effective for catching crappie?
It could be more on the time of year, because in the spring when those fish are spawning, I can go with one that's pushing 2 or 3/4 of an inch, maybe 3, when they are like guarding the nest or they're getting ready to spawn and they're going to start packing on weight. You can get away. And if I can get away, I always try to get away with the biggest, heaviest jig head I can get away with. Got more control over that jig.
Right.
If I'm using a 1/4 ounce jig head, that jig head is straight under the tip of my rod. I know where it's at. Even with a steady 15-mile-an-hour wind, that jig is right where the line shows it's at. Instead, you get a really windy day in the spring and you got a 64th ounce or a 16th ounce jig, your line's got that loop in it.
Yep.
Hard to keep control of where that bait's at.
That's right.
Wind speed and the time of year will kind of dictate on what's. But if I can get away with a heavy 1/4 ounce jig every time, I will always use a heavy 1/4 ounce jig. Just it's easier to control. It's easier. I know. Boom! It's on the bottom and it's there on the bottom fast, and I can work it back up through the water column. I can feel it, and since you got so much tension on that line, you can feel every little bump on that jig head, which, a super small jig, sometimes you don't get that feel real quick right when they're tapping on it.
If you find crappie suspended in some of the dead trees, and let's face it, Truman, Lake Ozark, Palm Chair, they're all full of trees like that. What size jig head are you using then on suspended
Probably
stuff?
16th or an 8th.
Yeah, okay.
16th. We probably use 16th more than we probably use just about anything. 16th and 8th, maybe 50-50 on them.
Now,
if I'm targeting a fish right, I don't want to use something that's going to spook it off that tree and spook all the rest of them away. So it seems like a 16th ounce jig, maybe a little bit, even a 32nd or a 64th. If you can keep control of it, that fall rate sometimes I think triggers bites. Sometimes that really slow fall will make a fish hit that bait.
I find that the 32nd, 64th, and even the 1/80th ounce jig heads, for me, I use them more for bluegill than I do for crappie.
I think it's kind of tough to use a 64th or a 32nd ounce jig on a crappie because it seems like they will inhale that jig.
Oh yeah.
You got one hook clear back in the gills plate somewhere. It's a lot of times they're hooked in the lip, but it seems like it's so much easier for them to completely, when they open that mouth and they suck that jig back in there, it goes in there with a lot of force, and that little jig ain't going to bounce off anything like a 16th or an 1/8 ounce jig head will. It's going straight back to the throat, and it's going to be efficient. It's either going to bleed all over your bone too.
Yeah, I agree. But the 16th I really like, and an 1/8 right until a little later in the year, I like to use the 1/8 ounce ones. But I don't have any quarters. Maybe I need to contact our old buddy who lives over by you about some.
Hey, he'll do them in quarters, Jason.
I'm pretty sure he would.
Big head. I did some. We were trolling, and this one where he sent me back a message with a question mark. Are you nuts? Trolling. We was actually long lining, and I had a sinker on the bottom, and I had my jigs up above it. I kept getting hit. We wasn't hooking up. And I really think they were hitting that weight that was on the bottom. I think that's, a great colored sinker. I really think those fish were hitting that weight. So I messaged him and I said, I need a 3/4 ounce jig head. It's going to get me down. And he's like, what in the world are you going to do with 3/4 ounce? I saw crappie fishing with them. He's like, well, you're going to have to explain this one. So I got 3/4 ounce jig head at the bottom, and I'm going to put 2 64th ounce jigs above it and see if they are hitting that big jig head. So I got this painted up like a dozen of them, painted it, put a little jig on them, got them all down, do the thing. And sure enough, they did. They were hitting that big 3/4 ounce jig.
Wow.
And I was getting the hookups on it. Some of them I didn't paint just to see if it was the sinker, but the day we went out, they were hitting them whether they were painted or not. So it could have been one of those days where they were feeding and it didn't matter.
It didn't matter. It could have been.
Yeah, it didn't matter. We've caught small crappie on big spinnerbaits before, bass fishing. They'll do it. So whether it was a fluke that's what happened or that's really what was going on, I'm not sure.
Well, the guy we're talking about is Jason Brummel with Jason's Tackle. You can catch him on eBay. He sells the fire out of everything from jig heads that he'll make as many of them. Believe me, I know for sure he'll make as many of them as you want at one time. He'll get them to you at a great price, fast ship. And if you need powder paint or anything related to it,
it's ProTech powder. He's a authorized ProTech dealer. I mean, it don't say ProTech on the jars when you get them, but I've seen it. They come out of ProTech 5-gallon buckets.
Absolutely, and a great guy. I mean, you don't find anybody.
One of the best guys you'll ever meet.
That's right.
And honestly, really, I'll tell people about him. I'll be like, he is the biggest bait maker you've never heard of. Yeah. And I really think he is. The business that goes out is unbelievable.
Oh, I'm sure.
What he does.
And he's not, I can call him up and I can say, believe it or not, I've actually done this. I say, I need 5,000 jig heads and in a couple of days, he's got them. Yeah. And they're in the mail.
He'll do it.
And that's a fact, Eric.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because he can send me a message. Heads up, you might be getting ready to paint 5,000 jig heads. I was like, what? Yeah, then I think you sent a text message right after. Hey, would you want to be? I was like, yep, we'll do it. I already know they're coming.
How long did it take you to paint all those, Eric?
Oh, me and Zach done it together. I don't know. I'm not sure. But we got to a point where there was still quite a few. And I was like, man, Lyle's got to be one of these jig heads. And I told Zach, I said, we're not stopping until we're done. Then we got, I want to say one Sunday afternoon. Man, I want to say we ended up finishing off 1,500 of them.
Wow.
Just, boom, boom, boom until we got them done.
You got to be like I was and say, hey, I'm in no hurry when you get around to it. Get around.
Even if somebody tells me.
That's the way I bet they were still cussing you out, Lyle.
They probably are.
No, honestly, we're not. I mean, we had a good time. We come down here, we had music going, we watched movies, we watched all the Lord of the Rings, all the Hobbits. It took a long time to do 5,000 jig heads. We got quite a few series wiped out that weekend. We spaced it out over a while, though. But I think I have a really hard time getting Zach to paint. I burn him out over those. Or
it's all Lyle's fault.
Well, for a 10-year-old, we started one time he was like 9 to now. It's not the most exciting job for a young kid to do.
Oh, yeah.
Here's 500 heads, do them. It's hard to get a kid interested in doing that. Even,
But
just sitting still in one spot and, boom, 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 boom.
here we're talking about a 10-year-old gentleman that fishes all the time. He powder paints, he ties jigs, and one of the nicest youngsters that I've ever met. I met him when I picked up those jigs from Eric, and Zach come over and we talked a little bit, and then we both went home, and I thought to myself, man, what a cool kid. Eric's done a great job with this guy. He likes to fish, he likes to tie jigs. He's dipped 5,000 jigs, and he's going to be a great fisherman one day.
He likes to fish. I'll give it. He likes the Xbox and all that stuff too. But
well, sure, they all
outside. He enjoys being outside.
Well, and that's the difference between him and so many of them, that they just don't go outside.
A lot of them just don't want to give up that time on the Xbox to go outside.
Right.
And he'll come to me. He did last. Hey, we deer hunt next weekend. And I was like, oh yeah, if you want to. And he's like, yeah, I would really want to. So I'm definitely not going to tell him no. I'm not going to shut that out.
No.
I like to see him deer and catch a fish like I did when I was his age.
Yep, that's right. And the opportunity for stuff that we done when we was kids, Eric, is not as available now as it was.
Not at all.
If you have to do that and he wants to go, I highly recommend that you make it happen.
Yeah.
There was a time when just about any farmer would let you deer hunt. Oh yeah, go back. You can't do that anymore. That's rare. Those guys are few and far between. You're hunting on public ground, Corps of Engineer ground, and you got to put up with getting him to the spot where I was when I was his age is impossible now.
Yeah.
But the fishing aspect, I can still keep the fishing aspect of it going.
Yep.
And it's up to him. If he enjoys deer hunting, when he gets over, he can go knock on doors, work for farmers and things like that, and try to open those doors.
Yeah, I used to take my kids when they was growing up. Both boys would take them up on Truman. I fished up there a lot. I had some great places. I bow hunted up there. We killed bobcats, we killed deer, and at the end, I was taking the boys and we'd set up deer stands, and I'd take them up to their place and let them go deer hunting, and I'd fish because it got to the point, like I say, wasn't as big of a challenge as for me. And if they're both killing deer, we don't need three, so let them kill what they want. And it's fun to watch.
I was thinking about that, going to Truman to hunt.
I can recommend you a couple spots that we didn't used to have anybody around as much. So once in a while, but not very often. That we set up deer stands. I'd leave them. Just leave them, and at the end of the season, I'd take them down. Never had anybody in them when I come up there. I've been in places on public ground where I'd set a deer stand up, and every time I go out there, I'd have to run somebody off my stand. And there's a couple of times that got pretty rowdy because I don't go for that stuff. I don't do that to them. I don't want them to do to me. And they come out of there, and we're going to go at it, and we did. But on Truman, that never happened.
We've shot a lot of deer on Truman. It can be pretty remote in spots too. You can, I thought about that, putting a boat in the lake and going. You can get a pretty good ways, especially now with Google Earth. You can look at Google Earth and go, well, there ain't a house nowhere, a road within miles of this spot, and it'd be, we might end up there. It kind of depends.
That's what we used to do. We used to boat in this place, and I'd set the anchor out, tie the boat up, and go up in there and crawl my deer stand. But the place we used to go, there's a lot of wild pigs up there. Yeah, I don't know if it's legal to kill them in Missouri anymore or not. They had debates about shooting them and not shooting. They want to get rid of them, but they don't want you to kill them. And I'm thinking, what the hell? You either want them or you don't want them.
I think they passed that. Yeah. And I think they passed that law where it's illegal to shoot them.
I don't know why it would be. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard of. They want them gone, but they don't want you to harvest them. But anyhow, at that time, they hadn't made up their mind, and it was all around us one day. That's too bad. That crossbow is hard on them.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Super hard on them.
Yeah. I really like that crossbow.
I should have gotten one of those.
What's that?
I should have got a crossbow, and I the only bad thing about getting a crossbow is I'm gonna end up cutting into more fishing time.
That's right. I got that crossbow because after the shoulder surgery, I couldn't pull my bow back. I just couldn't do it, and I turned it down as low as I dare go, and I still could. I was to the point I wanted to bow hunt so bad that I was looking at women and kids' bows, so they had light enough stuff that I could pull them back after the shoulder surgery. And I said, "Piss on this!" I went and bought a crossbow, and at that time, you had to get a permit from the Department of Conservation to hunt with a crossbow.
And a doctor too.
I was eligible for it, and I got one. But now anybody can hunt with them in alternative season.
The reason I thought I tore a rotator cuff a long time ago, and that's why I gave up bow hunting. Is it might be good for 3 months, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's bad for 3 or 4 weeks. And I always figured I'd be right in the middle of that shoot, getting ready to let an arrow go, and my shoulder would give out.
Yep, I understand. Good to see you in here tonight, James Eyeball. Hope everything's going well with you. Creel says, I take Gabe with me every chance I get while Dad is still cool enough to be seen with. And I got that. And what happens, Jeremy, what happens is you're the man until they meet the right little girl, and then things change. And I know you appreciate that because I'm quite sure you've been there. My kids hunted with me. They, but we done team penning with them. We done whatever it was that their interest is. We've done with them, and then they would go fishing and hunting with me, and that it all worked out. But when they meet that right little girl, there's just something about that.
Yep.
Sometimes it might even be the wrong little girl. Live.
It could be.
It's very possible too.
Jeremy says he's got an old darting bow, 70-pound draw weight with only 50 let off. It's not for the faint of heart. I bet it's not.
Old school.
That is old school, yeah. I have a, what is mine? It's a big brand name. I can't remember the name of it now, but it's a 65 or 70 pound, but it's got a lot more let off than that. It's like 35%. It's not too bad to pull back, or it wasn't fully shoulder surgery, but I have it turned down to 40, which you're not supposed to go that low. And the last time I tried, I still couldn't pull it back. That was a few years ago. I need to go out there and see if I can, because I have a bow reel on it where you can shoot fish with it. And I'm telling you, for gar and stuff like that, Asian carp, man, it is a blast.
Yep.
It's a lot of fun. It really is.
I did that for a long time with the recurve. Always had a bow fishing reel set up on the recurve.
Yep. I just I got rid of recurves years ago, and I used to have one, but I haven't had one in a long time now.
Dad gave me his when I was a kid, and I had a compound bow, and I was like, well, I ain't deer hunting with that, and ended up putting a bow fishing reel on it. It worked out good. It always worked. It always worked.
Yeah, it is. I enjoyed doing it, and I would go out and we'd shoot them gar and stuff up on Truman, and I tried to get Marky, my youngest son, to shoot him, and he didn't want to do it. But then later on, when I wasn't around, he wanted to borrow my bow hunting setup, and I said, well, sure, I can't pull the bow back. You might as well take it and use it. And he did, and he loved doing it, but he didn't want to do it when I was around. I don't know if he's afraid he'd miss, but I took them kids to bow shoots out there at what is it, right outside of Springfield, where they have all them bow target shooting things. Down there by the cave. Yeah, Ritter Park. They used to take them, they'd win all kinds of stuff. So it wasn't that they couldn't shoot them. He just didn't want to do it with being a bow for whatever reason. I don't know. But it wasn't bow dart. But we had a blast. And that's what you do with kids. If they want to go bow shooting, you take them bow shooting. If they want to go fishing, you take them fishing.
Yeah.
Their interest in the outdoors, keep them in a boat as long as you can, and teach them because they're going to have kids someday, and they need to pass that on just like you did.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. If he wants to go swimming, I told him, I said, you wake up early in the morning on a Saturday or Sunday and you want to go squirrel hunting, come get me out of bed. We'll go.
That's
You know,
right.
I will always be sitting beside you in the woods shooting squirrels. Always.
Tell him to kill all the reds he can. I've only got a couple of red squirrel tails.
We don't see them any last year wins at all. Nowhere. It was one spot we hunted was full of reds and very few grays. And last year it totally flopped. And I don't know if they forced the reds out. I would think a big old red squirrel would take territory over a little gray squirrel, but
Well,
I don't
you
think
think?
that's the case.
I don't either.
I think them grays have run those reds off.
I have a pecan tree in my backyard, and I swear you can go out because pecans hold their leaves a long time. But you go out in my backyard right now, and you can't see a pecan on that tree, and it was loaded. And a couple of years ago, I eliminated a lot of that, and it's all due to squirrels. Now this year they're back, and I've been a lot kinder to them. But Jeremy, I have a couple, so that'll last me a long time. But I noticed that I have one red squirrel that shows up about once a week, maybe twice. But I've got tons and tons of grays. And my neighbors have actually noticed that they come running up the street, across the road, and I've seen 8 and 10, 12 at a time in this tree. And I go out and get me a squirrel tail every once in a while. You know, I really do because there's just too many of them, and I don't get the benefit out of having a pecan tree, and I still got to mow over the holes and everything. So, but I'm glad to see him into shooting squirrels and all that. That just, man, that's awesome that he's like that. And
he's a trooper with it. He likes going. He enjoys it. He'll get out there and he won't complain about it.
Does he fish with you in the wintertime?
Yeah, he'll fish with me in the wintertime, and he's usually pretty good about it as long as he's got gloves. I think he's the type, if his hands get cold, he's done.
Yeah, I understand that.
My feet get cold, I'm done.
I'm like that too. I can take it in the hands being cold, but we usually take heaters and put in the boat. Cindy and I fished in some pretty cold tournaments over the years, January and February and stuff like that, when it was really miserable. But the boat and the other boats had enclosures, and that makes a big difference. But there's nothing like a heater when your hands get cold to stick your hands down there and warm them.
Yeah,
100%. Mine actually saved my hand.
Go ahead.
I said, the heater actually that I had in my boat actually saved my hands last time we were out. It made a big difference whatsoever.
Absolutely.
But be careful because, some bibs will melt before others. Ask me how I know.
Car hearts.
What were you going to say, Eric? I didn't interrupt
in my boat.
You do what?
The heater. I haven't yet put the heater in my boat. But we'll usually shut the windshield, and usually in the wintertime all long line, and we get cuddled up behind the windshield. We have the wind blocked.
Right.
We usually do better. Which sometimes you get out on the lake and the sun comes up, it's never as bad as what you think it's going to be.
Right.
Not always, but sometimes. Doing some stuff, it helps.
Creel says a coffee can heater and a duck blind is a lifesaver. I agree, man.
I bet.
I used to love the duck hunt, and we had 3 heaters set up. We had a floating blind on an irrigation lake up by Shell City, and it had place for dogs out on each end, and them 3 heaters in that duck blind was a lifesaver. We sat in our sweatshirts when I hunted in, and very comfortable. I wish I still had that.
I bet it was.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun. Well, we're running just over an hour. Eric, I can't thank you enough for being on here. It's as it always is a blast having you on here, and we covered a lot of ground. We talked about a lot.
Thank you for having me on. I enjoyed it.
Oh, dude, I think we need to set up a time and do this again pretty quick because it's just so enjoyable. You're easy to deal with and talk to, and Mark and I both know you pretty well, so it just makes for a fun show.
We need to do this on a boat somewhere out there in Missouri.
Well, I'm all for that.
Working day shift, I've got a lot of open evenings, so I'm more than happy to do it.
Well, we'll just make it happen a little more often. But yeah, Mark, if you got to realize now this is not in your zip code, but if you
I
could,
know that, and the wife has been booking up my weekends here pretty darn quick. I ain't gonna
hey,
lie.
you know what? If she wants to get in that boat and go with you, you just go ahead and do
It
that.
has nothing to do with the boat. I'm sorry.
Oh,
to say.
okay. I'm sorry to say it, but
Yeah.
get a hold of Eric and find a weekend that he's available because his schedule is probably a little more tight than mine is. Because you know what, my weekends are kind of open.
Let's make that happen.
I'm retired.
Yeah, I
Eric
think we're good.
one day you guys will both come up with that when you're retired, I don't have to buy a fishing license, Eric.
Oh, here we go. Oh, on that note, Lyle, a friend of mine just bought his 2-year-old son a lifetime fishing license. It was
Bless
a
his
great
heart.
thing. Yeah,
Bless
for
his
a
heart.
second.
That is awesome. He's planning on that kid
Yeah.
catching a lot of fish in his lifetime, and I think that's wonderful.
What a yeah, I mean, honestly, I couldn't think of a better gift to give somebody than
No,
especially that age, never have to buy a fishing license.
Yep.
there was a couple of things growing up that I thought was great Christmas gifts. My fishing and hunting license every year and a carton of cigarettes. And now that I don't smoke, I don't need the cigarettes. But there for a while, it was awesome.
I'm sure if you got a bottle of
Yeah.
Crown, you wouldn't be upset either, Lyle.
I never turned down a bottle of Crown for any event.
There you go.
Yeah,
Never.
no way. I wouldn't either.
In your life.
But cigarettes was
Wouldn't either.
great. I've had sister-in-laws give it to me. I had my brother give it to me. I've had all kinds of people give cigarettes to me. But my mom and Cindy always got me hunting and fishing license, it seemed like, and it was a welcome gift because it was actually something I could use.
Oh yeah, and something you didn't have to worry about going out and getting yourself.
No, because hell, I forget lots of times. But you know what? Even though I don't buy them or don't have to buy them, the first thing every year that I'm thinking about is making sure Cindy has hers because, when we fish tournaments, she told everybody if that boat moves, I'm going to be in it. And that was true.
Yeah.
I didn't fish. If I fished tournaments, she was fishing too. And we enjoyed doing that. We did a lot of travel, a lot of fishing places that we may or may not have went otherwise. But now the other day I said, I want to go to Lake Ozark and fish. Okay. She gets up, she gets ready. We go to Lake Ozark, we fish all day, come back, we get a load of fish. We go to Palm de Terre the time before that, we didn't catch a damn thing. Or we caught one, maybe one. And but she's ready to go. She never questions. She questions me on the water about some of my decisions. And sometimes I think, well, you know what? Maybe she's right. But in my back of my mind, I'm saying, no, that's not the way you do it. But if it makes her happy, it makes it easier for me to go. That's just like you and your son. If he wants to go fish this cove and you're thinking, there's no fish in that cove, just go over and fish it and let him have his understanding what's going on. There's a tip for you. That's a pro tip for you.
We do that a lot. We'll get in a truck and I said, which one are we going to? We going to Truman or we going to Palm de Terre? You pick. And that's one we go to. Whichever one,
Does he like Truman?
Wants to go, that's the one we hit. Huh?
Does he like Truman?
Yeah, he likes Truman. He likes catfish on Truman. He likes the noodles and jugs on Truman. He loves watching those noodles run down the lake.
You know what? Truman is a great lake to fish for catfish. There's a lot of crappie in Truman, and there's a lot of bluegill in Truman. There's a lot of walleye in Truman. It's a massive lake. People don't understand how big that lake is.
But you could fish for a year and not see the same thing.
That's exactly right. And if that's what he likes to do, that's perfect. It's a great place to throw out a bunch of jugs and catch some eating-sized catfish. And it makes for a great day. And you know what? I think catching catfish with noodles is one of the best things for kids to learn to fish on if their interest is not in it, because it's usually fairly fast action, and they enjoyed pulling them up. It's kind of like
if you do something. Yeah. But if you do cool things to the noodles, it even gets them even more interested in, like hang a couple bells on them. You know, you hear them bells running down the lake, or you know, in the evening we'll put a glow stick on them, and then those glow sticks stand up, and you watch those glow sticks go down the lake. You know, it really, and that might have been what got him so entitled. Was we started out using glow sticks in them, and you watch them glow sticks just running down the lake. You know, and it was a blast for him. He loved it.
You know, one of the other things that's really fun about that, Eric, is when you get a runner and you got to go chase it down. Them kids are, come on, Dad, come on, speed up.
Yeah.
I remember all that.
We spent many hours chasing fish down the middle of that lake.
Absolutely. It's a great place to do it. And there's a lot of other great places. Lake Ozark's good. We talked to a guy up there.
Yeah, Lake Ozark's is good.
Here a while back, and he said, come in. And I said, how'd you do? He said, we don't do very good. We hardly catch any fish. Usually we catch a limit every morning. I was like, every morning? Wow. But things change. It's not always the same. Got fronts moving through and different things. But anyhow, like I say, we're running just over an hour. Can't thank you enough for being on the show with us. We had a blast tonight. I'm sure everybody enjoyed it as much as Mark and I did. And I'll set you up to date. We'll get you back on here and do it again.
Yeah, set me up another one. We'll get it set up and do it.
We got to get you in here for some of this jig time we're going to do over the winter. So
and we'll be doing a lot of that probably on Saturday nights. If you're interested in doing some of that, we'll get in here. Absolutely. Be a lot of fun. We'll get you and Kim in here and Mark and I, and who knows? We might even get Doc in here. But we'll do that and have some fun. I want to thank everybody for watching our show tonight and being in chat. We appreciate it very much. If you're still watching the show and you haven't hit the like button, please do so. We'd appreciate it if you subscribe to our channel. If you really like it, you can join our group, and we give away jigs and stuff to our members. Jigs, flies, different things. Depends on every other month we do something different. So be sure to do that if you're interested. Thanks for watching the show. We'll see you next week on Panfish Nation.
Bye, everybody.